You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
Hello, Shoe and Show listeners. Welcome to another exciting edition of the program where we do cover the ins and outs of all things footwear. I'm joined by Sandi Mines. And Sandi, one of the things we cover are acquisitions. It's always interesting to talk about acquisitions in the business. And someone who's, in your sake, has been in the industry for quite some time, you've seen a lot of acquisitions over your career, both at Footwear News and here at FDRA. And so I think today's conversation will be quite interesting because when it comes to acquiring something, we acquired Fanny back in 2020, October 2020. There's a lot of excitement. There's maybe a little bit of trepidation with those who are acquired, but there's a lot of excitement, and I think it can open some kind of really amazing opportunities for these two new organizations that come together. And so I'm excited about our conversation today. I don't know if you are. I appreciate you joining me on this episode of Shoe and Show.
Great. I'm excited to be here too. This was a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting this one. It took me by surprise. I've known the White Mountain team for a very long time. They have a great reputation, such loyal customers. They've been around for a long time, and I wasn't expecting this one. So it was exciting to hear the news. I wanted to hear about why this took place, what was the future, what was the thinking behind it. So I'm looking forward to today's episode.
Well, why don't we get right to it and introduce and hear from the horse's mouths, plural, as we welcome Alen Mamrout, who's the CEO of the American Exchange Group. Alen, welcome to the Shoe and Show. Mr. Geller, Robert Geller, who's the Chief Revenue Officer of the new entity between White Mountain and Aerosols. Robert, welcome. And then Dennis Eichin, who's calling in from Venice, which we're all jealous of. He's our Chief Sourcing Officer at the new entity. So, gentlemen, welcome to the Shoe and Show. We're so happy to have you on.
Thanks for having us, Matt.
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
All right, Alen, we'll get to you. We'll start with you because I was in your showroom during June Market, and I was just blown away by your energy, your excitement, and all the brands that American Exchange Group represents. So I think a lot of our listeners in the shoe world know White Mountain. We'll get to them in just a second. But talk to us about the American Exchange Group. Who are you? Kind of what's your story? How did you get into this industry? And what are some of the brands that you own?
So, Matt, thank you for having us. When you were in our showroom, I kind of gave you an overview, gave you a tour of the floor and exactly what we do and how we got started. Obviously, it's known in the industry that we started as a fashion watch company. Fashion watches was our core business for many, many years. Then we expanded into wearables and electronics and smartwatches back in 2016. And in 2018 is when we really started dipping our toe in the footwear industry with a very, very small acquisition that, turned into, it was just a girls footwear company that we expanded to boys, to ladies, men's, and we really expanded our footwear presence through licensed and in-house private label brands. And then after that, I got addicted to the footwear business. And then one opportunity after the other, came aboard. And obviously we did the Aerosols acquisitions, the White Mountain acquisition. And a lot of the thought process, as I told you, Matt, is, being in business for 15 years, 16 years since I started American Exchange Group, I was 20. I will tell you that I've seen just in that short time span multiple retail consolidations, and then as you see that happening, there's a lot less and less retailers to go after. So how do you grow your business? And then we decided that the way to grow is additional categories. We have great retail relationships. We have the distributions. We have really strong ironclad relationships with the off-pricers, the mid-tiers, the department stores. So we figured, why not expand the categories? And it's worked really well for us. Handbags, SLGs, cold weather, fashion accessories. And, we've become a one-stop shop for many, many retailers.
That's great. That sounds like you're off to great expansions, and I like the idea of it. The growth mode is on for you, Alen. It sounds like you're off and running to the races, and you got a taste of the footwear industry, and now I want to see what's to come for you too in the near future. Once you get in, you kind of keep going down that road. And Robert, I'd love to hear from you about your first impressions of this conversation and the topic, and what made you excited about joining forces, and what your impressions were.
Well, it was very interesting in what you said in the beginning about you were surprised that this deal actually happened. Well, Dennis and I had been involved in several potential deals with White Mountain because the former owners, they wanted to sell the company, but they wanted to sell it to the right people that were going to do the right thing with the brand. And if you spend 15 minutes with Alen, you'll realize this is the place to go. And this was the match that worked. And, White Mountain was a very conservatively run, consistently profitable company. But growth wasn't the first thing the first objective all the time. It was to make sure everything is run right and be profitable. In this business, in my opinion, that if you're not moving forward, you're kind of moving backwards. And we felt like getting involved with American Exchange was absolutely the right things. There's things that Alan's company already does spectacularly well, and there's things that we do well as a footwear company, and it was sort of the perfect marriage. And you can hear in Alan's voice, it's grow, it's do things smart, but do them quickly and don't wait around. So there couldn't have been a better match. And there were other people that wanted to buy White Mountain, and it just didn't work out. This is the perfect place. So every day is exciting. It's a fast pace around here, and it's moving along miraculously well. It's fantastic so far.
Yeah, I want to kind of remind our listeners what they just heard a minute or two ago, that Alen started his company when he was 20, and that was 15 years ago. So that tells you what kind of energy Alen has and what an entrepreneur he's been from the start. Now, Dennis, let me bring you into this conversation, because from your perspective, you're president of the private label division of White Mountain. You're now chief sourcing officer. How has your role changed as you've been brought into the American Exchange family, if you will, and what's your day-to-day look like now?
There's a lot more collaboration. I pretty much flew solo in White Mountain, and Robert and I were the two guys, the face of the company, and the two people behind the scenes running the company. The amount of time that I spend mostly is with the Aerosols brand. I do, share ideas and thoughts with Alan's brother Morris, who's in charge of the AXNY group of brands, but the main focus is on Aerosols. As you know, they've had 4 owners in 7 years. There's been an inordinate amount of change within that organization and the brand. It had primarily left the wholesale business, the department stores, the family channel. Robert and I now are charged with bringing that back, and with the expansion of that, me sourcing the goods in Southeast Asia.
Awesome. Lots of changes, and it sounds like you have a pretty incredible team now to support you and move you forward. So that's exciting to hear. I'm also interested to share with everyone here who's listening too about where you will be in New York City for market weeks. How do you show up? What's your address? Are you moving? Are you merging? What does it look like? Tell us a little bit about, you talked a little bit about the showroom, Alen. Tell us how you're showing up in New York during market weeks and where people can find you.
So currently, White Mountain and Cliffs and Aerosols are double exposed. We have our offices in Norwood and showrooms, and we also have them here in New York City. We're located at 1400 Broadway, 18th floor. If any of your listeners are buyers, they can come here. Feel free to come without appointments. We'll accept them. They can come anytime. And that's where we showcase everything. We are kind of running out of space. We only moved in here, I want to say, a year and a half ago. And we took more than double the space we had before. We're out of space, and we're working on additional space within the building. So that way we have room for our next acquisitions to come. There's definitely things happening in the pipeline.
Wow, you're teasing us with some of the new acquisitions coming down the pike. Oh no.
Well, you promised to come here as soon as you announce said acquisitions and talk again about, come to Shoe and Show back and tell us kind of, who you acquired and why you did it.
I promise you, Matt, that once we sign on the dotted line, I will come do another podcast with you and your team.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, Robert, let me ask you this. So being a shoe guy, a shoe dog, if you will, and the American Exchange Group, Alen calls you up and you make this deal and you go into that showroom and you see all the smartwatches and you see the Jillian Michaels collab and you see all these kind of great, exciting things. It seems super sexy compared to kind of the slow and steady White Mountain vibe. But like, what are some of the things that make you excited about being injected into Alan's world of just kind of go, collaborations, technology, all the things that brought him to prominence in New York City?
Well, it's a great question, Matt, and it's the exact opposite end of the spectrum. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they could not be more different. So at White Mountain for 30 years, I've been here. I started here in 1994, and Dennis started in 1992. And in all those years, we never even had a showroom. So we were like wandering lost through the desert trying to show our product wherever we could. And now you walk into a building that has just a buzz and excitement. And not only, so I've got good relationships with the upper management of all of our accounts. Well, they're in there buying watches, or they're in there buying cold weather, or they're in there buying small leather goods. So there's a lot more interaction with the retailers than just at a market or just in their office. And the other incredibly positive thing is if you take a look at Aerosol's website, for example, it's one of the most beautiful websites in footwear that you're going to see. When we started at White Mountain, it was pretty much Robert doing sketches on a piece of paper and gluing them up on the screen to try to figure out how to make a website. That wasn't what we did. We didn't really have a marketing department. We didn't have an IT department. We were shoemakers, which is fine. But now we have a company that's actually a brand builder. We're building brands, and the amount of enormous brand equity that Aerosols has just from having stores all around the world. There's such a following for Aerosols, and you can see it every day with the massive numbers that aerosols.com does. And then White Mountain has the retail community's trust and confidence that we're going to be there and work through them through this process. Dennis is going to manufacture the shoes with the best quality and value relationship possible. So it really is. It's perfect. Every day is different. There's incredible, there's ad shoots going on all the time for lifestyle images and those things that we just didn't have, and now we have it at our fingertips, and you can see it because the growth is exponential since the merger.
It does sound like there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of changes, a lot of exciting things happening in it, and it seems to really fuel Alan's fire. It really seems to excite Alan, and I'd love to hear how you handle merging teams, how you develop culture, how you develop the relationships with new management, new teams across categories and things of that nature. I'm sure that's not as easy as it seems. I've been, through definite changes in my career where there's been, selling of companies and teams merging and acquisitions. And sometimes it proved to be a little bit difficult. Sometimes it was exciting. I'm interested to hear, Alan, how you steer that ship and how you make it work and what that looks like.
So I will tell you, this might be hard to believe, but that is the easiest thing for me is dealing with people, cultivating. I love my job. I love waking up every day. It's because who am I going to meet today? Who am I going to network with? I travel in my mind. I'm saying, I'm going to go to this destination and I'm going to meet so-and-so, and then that so-and-so is going to introduce me. This whole acquisition came because one person made a quick intro to Dennis saying, like, you have to meet Dennis. I never heard of Dennis Eichin before. Last June market, someone was in my office said, I think you should meet with him. They are the best in making shoes. Maybe they can make shoes for you. And through that introduction, one email intro, I ended up buying the whole company. So I always joke. I say I'm the man of the people. I get along great with people. I think Robert and Dennis will tell you that even though I'm around such different personalities within my organization and outside of the organization, when you talk about buyers and DMs and GMs and president, but I get along with everybody. There's rarely you rarely ever speak to anybody within the industry that would say one negative thing or that I've ever had a simple argument with anybody. I just get along with. I'm a people person, and truly that's what I love about my job.
That's awesome. That's what it takes. And
the integration. I mean, we're talking about the transition was so smooth. I mean, you could ask Robert, Dennis. I think went a lot smoother than anybody had anticipated.
So, Dennis, let's ask you that. First, I want to ask you, talk to me about that email when you now that email that's infamous has brought this deal together. What you thought when you went in and met Alen, and then how has the integration been? Sourcing is a really difficult thing to do. It really is. People don't realize how difficult it is, particularly for footwear. Talk to me about how you approached and how the integration's been since you guys were acquired.
So as Alen had said, last June, we got hooked up together and decided. I said, "Hey, I'm in New York. Let's meet." Came to their offices, met Alen. He has an infectious personality, right? It's go, go, go. Everything's positive. Rose-colored glasses like you've never seen before. And everything is just upbeat. So from that meeting, he came to Boston. We met again in our offices, and shoemaking came into shoe buying. And can you arrange, to meet the owners, to buy the company? That didn't quite happen, meeting the owners. But long story short, he bought the company. And I will also say that he has been very, very hands off. He has, had we been bought, I think, by any other company, we would be micromanaged. Alen has said to a lesser degree, not an absolute degree, here are the keys. You guys know what you're doing. Just report to me, run the company. There's nobody in between you and me. My door's open. My phone's always available. Just get a hold of me. Anything you have, I'll take care of. But you guys make sure you run the company. That's very unusual. Usually you're bought by someone, as Sandi can attest to, and the first thing they want to do is clean house, right? Or they're smarter than you, or they do it better than you. They do it faster. They do it cheaper. They do it whatever. They do whatever it is, better, faster, smarter, cheaper. Alen said, I love what you guys are doing. Keep doing it. Keep the train on the track, and let's integrate aerosols for the time being. Let's merge the two organizations. And it has been incredibly smooth, and I attest most of that to Alan's faith in Robert and I.
That's great. I mean, the reason that Alen probably was eyeing White Mountain was because it was so successful and had such great depth and such a great team. I mean, obviously, Alen bought the company, knew that, understood what the values were, and did not want to go ahead and quickly change that, but maybe build on that, right? It sounds like he's, looking for growth mode and changing things up, as Robert had shared a little bit too. So that's phenomenal. I applaud you, Alen, for doing that and empowering the team to go in that direction. Robert, I'm curious what the next year or 2 years looks like for you. What does 2024 bring for White Mountain and your team and your brands?
So 2024 for White Mountain will be kind of continuing what we're doing on a wholesale basis because the business has been very, very successful. One of the things that we're able to do now that we were not in the past is we're able to take a little bit more inventory risks. Alen would take a lot more risk than I even want to. So I'm the one usually pulling on the reins and Alen saying go. And so the wholesale business for White Mountain will continue what it's doing, but have a little bit more inventory position so we can chase things. The thing that I'm most excited about is 2024. You're going to see a lot more brand building with White Mountain. So at White Mountain, our wholesale business is very, very successful. Our dropship business is very successful, and our website is just kind of a website. It's not where we want it to be because we didn't have the expertise to do it. But in 2024, you're going to see a transition of our website and that direct-to-consumer model continue to grow. Alen didn't mention, but I think it was 6 months ago, he bought a digital marketing company. And that digital marketing company, Alen can explain much better than I can, will take that load and make these things happen. That's their expertise. That's what they do. And that's the super exciting part of what's going to happen with White Mountain. We're going to get the word out. The word's out after 40 years about what we can do in the industry, but I don't think it's out to the consumers the way it should be. And I really recognize that now after spending 6 months with aerosols. The amount of brand equity that aerosols has compared to where White Mountain is, it's not even close. And we've got to grow that White Mountain brand equity, and Alen has a team now to do that. So that's where you'll see the biggest difference, Sandy.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Robert. Now, Alen, with all this talk, I almost want you to acquire us. I mean, it just sounds like you're super infectious. Like, where do we sign? And all kidding aside, let me ask you this question. I'll try to play this. I'll try to do this diplomatically. Robert and Dennis have a lot of wisdom. What about the acquisition and the wisdom that they have as you brought them into the American Exchange family? What have you learned from them? What have you gleaned from them that's been helpful for you in your career and your strategizing around what to acquire next? This seems like a sweetheart deal. Not all acquisition deals are sweetheart, at the end of the day. So talk to me about what you gleaned from your partnerships with Robert and Dennis.
Well, after meeting Dennis, visiting, the offices in Norwood in Boston, meeting Robert, hearing about them, as Sandy said, their reputation, seeing what their capabilities. I think first step, because I owned aerosols, and aerosols, as Dennis mentioned, they've switched several owners in the last 7 years, 4 owners, 7 years. And aerosols, I inherited that was a challenge for me. But it was a challenge I embraced. I knew, what I needed to do and how to get it off the ground. But after meeting Dennis and Robert, I think one of the biggest benefits is that they took on aerosols. That was a huge project. This is my crown jewel within our footwear portfolio. Knowing the magnitude of the potential, the opportunity, the value that I can unlock out of aerosols, but I needed an all-star team. And after meeting Dennis and Robert and team, I said, I have to buy this. Because I didn't just buy a business, a very healthy business. I bought a foundation. I bought a 50-year-old structured foundation in the US, in China, all around. So I think that other than I learned what a Monday morning quarterback, I learned all these beautiful quotes from Dennis and Robert. I never knew what a Monday morning quarterback was until a couple of months ago. So, because I don't watch sports, I told you. So I think outside of, what I learned from them on a day-to-day, but what they took on, that was the biggest benefit, is for them taking over aerosols. And I recognized that just after meeting them a month later, that I had to do this so they can take on aerosols, and that would be the fastest way I can unlock the aerosols value.
That's awesome. So as we close out the conversation, Sandy kind of asked this, but I asked it in a little different way. And we'll ask you, Alen, kind of what do you expect 24 to look like, 25? Is there anything you want to tease on the potential acquisitions, any product categories you're looking at? How are you going to continue to drive this growth trajectory? And then I'll let Robert and Dennis kind of think about this question as we make our way around the room one last time. Same for you. Like, what I know you talked about, building brands, Robert, but what else is out there on the horizon? And then we'll close out the conversation. So Alen, we'll start with you.
So for me, growth, like in terms of acquisitions, I'm very opportunistic. So I look at everything every day. We get solicited from private equity, boutique equities and bankers for different opportunities. So that I can't tell you what tomorrow brings, and it's not limited to just footwear. Like we're looking at several companies in several different areas, but it's within our industry. not apparel, but more accessories and more footwear. Footwear is one of the companies that we're looking at now. We are looking at a footwear company, but that's the acquisition. I feel like for the remainder of 23 and 24, that is the biggest opportunity to stay on that, keep striking for acquisitions. Because at the end of the day, it's difficult out there, right? It's not easy. We know it's not easy, but if you figure out the formula and you have good operators and you have a very strong, seasoned executive team, you can make it work. But the growth within the brands, I think that, we're launching in-house. We're launching White Mountain handbags and SLGs. We're launching White Mountain cold weather. We're launching White Mountain belts, and we've licensed multiple licenses like outerwear for White Mountain and socks and hosiery and things like that. So there's going to be, when you walk into a retailer, it's going to be a lifestyle brand. You'll see leather, you'll see handbags, you'll see cold weather, you'll see outerwear, you'll see footwear, you'll see socks, hosiery. I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward and very proud of doing in the next 12 to 24 months for Aerosols and White Mountain.
That's awesome. Robert, what about you?
Well, I think the most important thing, the laser focus, is to grow or regrow the aerosols wholesale business and get back into business with our retail partners. And when Alen acquired the company and put us in charge, I said, I promise you that we'll get every executive from every retailer that we want to do business with in that showroom at the markets. And after that, I can't promise you anything, but I promise you that I'll get them in there. And they came in, and the response was, it's unbelievably positive. And we're getting the aerosol product focused where that brand can be. So that's the most important thing, is you will see more national distribution on the aerosol brand. Another exciting thing that we didn't mention is we have launching in 24, we will have kids, little girls in White Mountain and aerosols, something that we've wanted to do for many, many years. Dennis can source anything. I always say he's the wizard behind the curtain. There were years ago at Stride Right where Dennis made a huge majority of their children's shoes private label for them. So you'll see kids in both aerosols and White Mountain, and in 2024 a massive expansion of aerosols on the wholesale level, to our retail partners. That's the big key for us.
That is awesome. So, Dennis, the wizard, close us out, my friend. Yeah. What's on the horizon for you?
Well, on the aerosol side of things, 4 owners, 7 years, the whole sourcing structure, a bit helter-skelter, right? There might be one guy left from when Jules was there, and 2 guys. It's all over the place. With lead times being what they are, especially in Asia, you're already 5 months out. So you inherit what's baked into the cake already for a season. So it will take the good part of a year to try to bring stability, to the structure, to the organization and the product, which we will absolutely do. It just doesn't happen maybe at the speed Alen likes to work at, but it takes time. And the second thing, the exposure of our brand that Alen alluded to, where we had, we're known within the industry, but not really known outside the industry. The exciting thing that Alan's going to do is going to blow up the brand and expose it in more ways in a year than we've done in 20. And that's incredibly exciting. And he's going to be pouring money into our website with the marketing company. And, we're very well known, not pretty well known, within the industry. He's going to make us as well known to the consumer, which is
big transformation happened digitally for White Mountain. Major transformation. It'll kick in Q4 of this year and into 24.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's super exciting. I want my hands on the first ever White Mountain smartwatch. I don't know what it'll do. It'll definitely count your steps, but beyond that, maybe not much more. But hook me up with a White Mountain smartwatch. I'll be the first one. Well, guys, I can't thank you enough. And Sandi, thank you for being my partner on this journey to talk about this acquisition. I'm super excited about it. I encourage our listeners to go to axnygroup.com. That's axnygroup.com to learn all about the American Exchange Group and what Alen and Robert and Dennis are up to. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on today's program.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, folks, this has been another exciting edition of the Shoe and Show. We encourage you to go to shoeandshow.com to listen to all of our episodes, 7 years worth of amazing conversations. And we're just getting started. As Alen kind of talked about, we're off and running as well and trying to capture these conversations. This is legitimately a conversation I had with them in their showroom. And I said, we got to record this, put this on Shoe and Show. And so we want to do that for our listeners so you get access into these great conversations of what's happening in our industry. Make sure you rate us, make sure you subscribe, and inform your friends about all the great episodes that are coming out over the next few weeks. Until next time, Shoe and Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.